Welcome everybody to a little bit of a different video this time. Somewhere along the way of making these leatherworking videos, in my blank mind came the thought of the history of leatherworking. I, like many other people, had never actually thought about it having a history, because it seems kind of obscure. I also made this video in the style of salmonella, because it keeps history light and interesting. I was also going to originally draw myself like this, so then you'd think I was a big muscular man. But it was way too hard, and I can't draw hands, so I'll just be a stickman with this cool hat on. Anyway, I make some jokes along the way in the video, so I hope you can have some laughs. Please laugh. Anyway, actually getting into history, there was evidence as far as 400,000 years ago that humans did leatherworking, although no source states what we actually used it for. I mean, there's no way that cavemen carried around rocks and wallets. I don't know. Only one source stated that leatherworking began in Hoxne, England, so take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, there were no other places mentioned as this far back, so I guess it works for now. Bone awls, which are like the tool I love using, this little thing, but except a little bit bonier, were found 72,000 to 84,000 years ago in South Africa. But the earliest confirmed leatherworking tools were confirmed in the Stone Age around 5000 BCE in ancient Sumer, or modern-day Iraq. And this is the first piece of ancient history that I can actually corroborate, so things will get a little clearer from here on out. Anyway, the oldest leather shoe was found around 3500 BCE in the Ireni 1 cave in Armenia, and it was found in 2008. But this thing kind of looks like a soggy potato, and I don't actually know if anybody would wear this. Even back then they were fly, so it's hard to picture. Anyway, most of the sources I used were very adamant that leather was only used for shoes and clothing at this time. But in the Bronze Age, leather began to be used for other goods as well, such as shields, capes, and arm protectors for bow shooting. One source even says the first written reference to leather, found in Egypt, dates to around 1300 BCE. Basically, during the Iron Age, leather just became even more popular in fashion, with soggy potatoes out and toe-exposing sandals in. An example for the fashion is the armbands people wore. Particularly, I'll mention the Old Croghan Man, or, well, Irish people forgive me, Croghan in Gaelic. He's found near Croghan Hill in Ireland in 2003. I won't show a picture of him because he has no head, no lower half of his body, and he's all dried up from the sands of time. However, he did sport a leather armband at the time of his death, which apparently indicated his high status. And I think it's important to mention what leather was used for around the world at the time, because, well, big surprise, but Europe isn't the only place in ancient history. Similarly, these places used leather for clothes and shoes, but there are some smaller cool things that we should mention. In ancient India, they made these water-carrying bags called mashaks. In ancient Egypt, leather was a valuable writing material, and we've actually found leather manuscripts detailing important events, and they could have also been known as master copies kept in the archives of temples. In ancient China, the most interesting item, to me at least, is the leather armor that was made during the Shang dynasty. Jumping to the Dark Ages, leather shoes began to become more advanced. Now they were closed-toed, so everybody wasn't walking with the dogs out constantly. Oh, hey Thelonious, what's up? It's been a long time, man. You're telling me that for thousands of years, we walked around using the earth as our eternal footbath, and now you look at me like a woman looks at a 30-year-old man who gets chicken tenders on their first date? Anyway, this is also when leather became popularized in the use of furniture, mostly because of how durable, yet soothingly comfortable it was. Now, the Vikings, I don't really think they're worth mention. Not because they didn't use leather, but actually quite the opposite. They were big leather daddies. so basically just think of them as using it for everything. In the Middle Ages, leather guilds started, but the only notable advancement in the craft was the pull-lane shoe. And this is also the origin of the phrase, scuffing my J's, because at all the parties where people were wearing their pull lanes, the long toe would scuff against the shoes of other partygoers. Now we're in what many would consider modern times, starting roughly around the 14th century. During the Renaissance, basically everything started to look a lot better, and there weren't many advancements, bar two things. Books started to widely be bound by leather, and the leather frogs. Sorry, not that one. These would go around the belts to hold the rapier, which was also invented during the Renaissance. In the period of Enlightenment, well, let's stop here for a second. If you'll notice, I'm mentioning the actual starts and ends of these periods very loosely, because most sources don't agree on a definite start and end date. So I think giving you a rough idea is better than giving you an exact year that somebody else may not agree with. Anyway, during the Enlightenment period was when industry started to become a little more commercialized, and countries started to trade specialized goods with each other. In the Industrial Revolution, business was booming, and with the increase in the amount of machinery that could be used, the production of leather and goods exponentially increased. The most notable invention of this period, though, was the invention of chrome tanning by German technologist Friedrich Knapp and Hilton Kavalin from Sweden in 1858. This process uses the element chromium to tan leather very fast, and it adds a high heat resistance to the leather, and it becomes softer and thinner. Chrome tanning is still widely used today and is the main process of tanning for shoe leather because of the heat resistance. Since then, there hasn't been many advancements in the industry or craft that are notable enough to mention, other than the invention of synthetic leathers. Today, the same leather goods that have been produced throughout history are still being made. From clothing and shoes to furniture, we basically make everything our ancestors did, but mass-produce them at a consistent quality. Even though goods can be mass-produced, there are still people that make them by hand. What they choose to do with them is really up to the person who makes it. Some people just do leatherworking as a hobby, some people make a business out of it, and there are some that make videos out of it like me. Whatever it is, the tradition is still very alive, even after 400,000 years supposedly. Overall, I can't say that the history of leatherworking is exactly riveting, but it's cool to me at least. Although researching ancient times, the history becomes very convoluted. Partially because it was a long time ago, and partially because I don't think leatherworking has ever been at the forefront of historians' interest. And I tried to corroborate as much as I could, but most of the sources I found said many different things, and some mentioned things that I couldn't even find anywhere else on the internet. So in the description of the video I listed all the sources I used in MLA format. Oh, my English teachers would be so proud if they saw me now. But anyway, you can check the validity of sources yourself if you care enough. I put a lot of work into this one, so if you enjoyed the video I would deeply appreciate it if you would subscribe. Maybe leave a like if you feel so inclined. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, Star Sailor.